Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever thought of owning a company? Have you ever thought of your identity after you own a company? Have you ever thought about the company's identity after you own it? Well, if you have all these confusions, you're in the absolute right place. It's time to welcome an amazing case law of Lee versus Lee's Air Farming Limited, which will make things absolutely clear for you about a company being considered as a separate legal entity. This case will take you back in time in 1961. This case is not just famous in New Zealand, but all over the world. This is an amazing case of corporate law and is amazingly crucial for establishing the principle of a company being considered as a separate legal entity. Well, the document will examine the case background, legal arguments, the ultimate impact on corporate law and employment relationships. So, let's learn about the case. Well, if I talk about the background of the case, Lee's Air Farming Limited was a New Zealand-based company which was specialized in aerial top dressing. Now, for those who don't know, this is a famous technique which is used to distribute fertilizers over large farmlands using aircrafts. This method played a crucial role in enhancing the soil fertility. Now, this method in the late 1950s and early 1960s was amazingly popular in New Zealand, but later on gained popularity in different parts of the world. Now, the company's operations were instrumental in modernizing agricultural techniques in New Zealand, where vast and often rugged landscapes made traditional fertilization methods challenging. Now, before moving on, let me give you an introduction about the company and as to who Mr. Lee, the owner of the company, was. Well, besides being the owner of the company, Mr. Lee was a pilot himself who used to engage in the business of aerial top dressing himself. Now, he was also the major stakeholder in the company. He had 2,999 shares out of 3,000 shares which were listed in the company. Well, now let's know about the incident and the insurance claim. Well, once Mr. Lee was engaging into the operations of aerial top dressing himself, that's when he lost his life through a plane crash and had a fatal accident. His death not only marked a significant personal and a professional loss, but also set in motion a legal battle that would test fundamental principles of corporate law and employment relationships. Well, Mrs. Lee filed a claim for the workman compensation benefit under New Zealand's Workers' Compensation Act, which provides financial support to the dependents of employees who died due to work related accidents. She argued that her husband, despite being the majority shareholder, director, and the chief pilot of the company, was also an employee performing duties under a contract of service. Now, the main question is, will Mrs. Lee would be granted with the compensation she's asking for? That is, will the court of law approve the compensation which Mrs. Lee wants? Let's get to know about it. Well, the New Zealand Court of Appeal decisions disregarded Mrs. Lee's claim. They said that there was no line between Mr. Lee and his company. That is, the New Zealand's Court of Appeal decision thought that the Mr. Lee, who was the owner of the company, and the company itself was one and the same thing, and there was a lack of separate and a distinct entity between the two. Therefore, they decided the claim being disregarded. Now, Mrs. Lee, unsatisfied with the mm, decision, decided to proceed with the Privacy Council. Now, the Privy Council in London, her legal team argued that despite Mr. Lee's controlling position had a separate legal personality, they asserted that the company was a distinct entity capable of entering into contracts and employing individuals, including its own directors. Now, the Privy Council's judgment. Now, finally, the Privy Council's landmark decision in 1961 reversed the Court of Appealing's ruling, finding in favor of Mrs. Lee. This established a crucial principle: a company is separate legal entity. distinct from its shareholders and directors. Now we learn about legal principles which were established. Now, the Privy Council's judgments reaffirmed the long-standing principles of corporate personality established in 1897, case of Salmon versus Salmon Coal Limited, confirmed that a director can legally enter into a contractual relationship with its own company. The Lee case highlighted the importance of an employment contract in determining the relationship between a company and its employees. The ruling established that an individual can be both a controlling figure and an employee as long as a valid employment contract exists. Now, if we look at the impact and the significance of the case, now the Lee's decision had a profound impact on corporate law and employment relationships. It clarified the rights and the responsibilities of company directors, establishing that they can be employees of their own companies, regardless of their controlling role. The case has implications of workers' compensation and insurance claim, as well as influencing corporate governance and employment law in common law jurisdictions. Subsequent and related cases. The Lee case has sparked numerous subsequent legal decisions concerning the corporate wheel, the legal concept that separates a company actions from its shareholders and directors. Now, for those who don't know what a corporate wheel is, now a corporate wheel is a theory which distincts a company from its members. It's the corporate wheel through which a company is considered to be distinct and separate from its members. While some cases have upheld the principle of separate legal entity, others have challenged its applications, particularly when the company's actions are closely intertwined with the actions of its controlling figures. Cases like Makora versus Northern Assurance Company Limited and others have provided further clarifications on limits and nuances of this important principle. Now, if I deep dive into the conclusion, the landmark case Lee versus Lee's Air Farming Limited remains a significant ruling in corporate law. Key finding, it enforced the principle of company being considered as a separate legal entity, emphasizing that a company is distinct from its owners and the directors. That is, even if a person owns a majority stake in the company, he will still be an employee if his contract says so. Impact on the corporate law. This decision has profoundly shaped the understanding of corporate operations and employment relationships. Legal precedent. This principle has been reaffirmed in numerous subsequent cases, solidifying its importance in legal frameworks. Protection of employee rights. The ruling ensures that employees, including company owners, receive fair legal protection under employment laws. It upholds the essential legal framework of corporations, allowing them to function as separate entities while maintaining fairness in employment relationships. Thank you, guys. This was it for Lee versus Lee's Air Farming Limited.